It's fun to play the game. Could we live here?
I love that game. I remember when we arrived in Hong Kong and the weather was pretty good. It had beaches, islands, hiking, great transportation, lots of cool sights, and an airport that goes everywhere. We were ready to buy a tiny apartment after our first couple days in the country. The housing costs are an issue, but everything else was fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
Including the beers.
Yeah. Also, Hong Kong is a long way from the United States. The people didn't come off as real friendly and outgoing, and the air pollution is fairly awful. So while we love visiting Hong Kong, there are a few downsides to living there.
True. Then we checked Hong Kong off the list of potential locations to live. But a few months later, we went to Nicaragua, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I still want to buy a home there.
The people were so friendly. The transportation was a little sketchier, but it's a really beautiful country.
Totally. I went there on my own before we met and loved it so much. I took you as one of our first big trips. And up until we bought our first place here in Mexico, we'd occasionally go online and check out properties in the Granada area, which I thought would have been an amazing place to have as a home base for exploring the country.
Yeah. I think the concerns with owning property in Nicaragua are, number one, the stability of the government, and number two, how comfortable Americans and foreigners in general feel about traveling there.
Yeah, if you're going to live somewhere, you want to have some faith in the government protecting you. Right now, that seems like it's a bit of an issue with Nicaragua. I think we're going to be back there at some point in the future to explore the country, but it's definitely going to be a place that we visit as tourists and not as homeowners.
So what is the criteria for choosing a country to live in?
The first thing would probably be, can it be done? Can you live there full time, buy property, earn a living, and so on? Buying Mexico was great because we had friends who had already done it. They owned several homes here and had their Mexican residency, so we could really lean on them for assistance. Over the past 4 years, since we've lived here, we've had to figure out a lot of things on our own, like how taxes work in Mexico, condo law, insurance, and so on. But for sure, it's important to have a basic understanding of how buying property works before choosing to move somewhere. Or if you just plan on renting where you live, maybe research how visas are handled. Some countries are more expat friendly. You hear all the time about people having to make border runs every 3 months, even those people that are working legally in a country as like a school teacher or whatever.
And if you're planning on working while living abroad, most countries may request that you pay taxes on those earnings too.
Yeah.
Mexico has a lot of laws on who can open a bank account. You have to register with the government to pay your taxes, and then they are due monthly. I don't know how anyone pays taxes here without an accountant.
No, we don't. Shout out to our accountant. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff we know very little about. You have probably important aspects to have a basic understanding before you choose a country to live in. Oh, and my biggest fear with owning here in Mexico is how much difficulty we're going to have in selling our homes. I've never heard of anyone here with a mortgage. I think it's possible, but we don't know anybody who's done it. So we'll have to find someone most likely with the cash to buy. And if you're purchasing a home, then you very well may need cash to buy. The thought of selling apparently hasn't scared off too many Americans here in Mexico, because more Americans live in Mexico than any other country in the world outside of the United States. Although here in Ziwa, it seems like we have a lot more Canadian than American expats.
Well, moving on, forget about visas and property ownership. What should you consider? The obvious: climate, cost of living. Do you want to be near the beach or mountains? Healthcare, proximity to a major airport, the ease of travel if you plan on visiting your home country, or if you expect to have friends visit you from your home country. Or how about if you plan on visiting other places around the world from your new home base?
definitely. Hong Kong would have ultimately been nixed because we don't want to live a 17-hour flight from the United States.
Those were fun flights. But other factors, friendliness of people, how safe the area is, what type of food you like, because I'm a total foodie. We like Mexican food, but we do sometimes miss greasy American food.
Okay, so touching base on a few things you just mentioned. On the climate, even within Mexico, which is obviously a massive country, there are many reasons I would want to avoid the Gulf of Mexico side. It seems like they have a lot of issues with the sargassum, which is that seaweed that can overrun beaches, and the weather is a little more unpredictable. Other places we visited in Mexico were really cold at night. We had to buy mittens.
I remember that. A lot of those places you're talking about here in Mexico, like Cancun, Guanajuato, Cabo, and so on, are pretty popular with the tourists and expats alike. We like visiting some pretty tourist areas, but to live?
Yeah. But we wouldn't be able to handle the constant flow of tourists. How about eating meals? In Barcelona and Buenos Aires, it was hard to get dinner before 8 or 9 o'clock at night. We do often eat late, but we also often go to bed before 9 o'clock at night.
Totally. I can maybe deal with that because I cook 3 or 4 nights a week. But having good markets and grocery stores is the top of the list for me. A positive for a place with a lot of expats and tourism is that it will generally offer all the grocery items I look for. Another positive of the touristy areas is English is more commonly spoken. Your Spanish is pretty good, but there's still some times where we really struggle.
Yeah, we struggle a lot. What about transportation? There are a lot of things to like about Medellin, Colombia. Medellin. I was talking to a guy in Colombia, and he was saying, "You'll love Medellin. The people are so friendly, and the climate's so good in Medellin." His Colombian accent was so thick, we talked for 5 minutes before I realized he wasn't talking about Beijing, China. He's talking about Medellin, Colombia. I was wondering, why are we talking about Beijing, China? Anyway, Medellin is great, from the friendly people to the climate. The citizens there are really proud of how hard they've worked to restore the image of the city. And even prouder of the fact that they're the only city in Colombia with a subway system. And it's really good. They also have their own version of Uber. In the Dominican Republic, many cities don't even have taxis. They just have those minibuses and motorcyclists that will give you a ride on the back of their motorbike for $1 or $2. Guatemala and Thailand have areas where the tuk-tuk is the predominant form of transportation. Neither tuk-tuk nor motorbike is really great if you have a lot of items to carry with you. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we never could figure out what was a taxi or a bus. We ended up just renting a car on both islands.
Yeah. Trinidad and Tobago is amazing. We need to go back. And if we lived there, we would definitely buy a car and wouldn't have to worry about how the taxis work.
Right, yeah. Other things to consider. If you're going to be somewhere for the long haul, things that may be important to you, access to golf courses, museums, bike paths, gyms, parks, theaters, even fast food restaurants.
Having a movie theater that plays movies in English here in Ziwa is huge for us. And with Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other streaming services, you can get your TV shows anywhere in the world as long as you have decent internet.
Yeah, we need high-speed Wi-Fi. Internet is extremely important to us. We couldn't do Cuba for that reason. Well, there's a lot of reasons we can't do Cuba. We couldn't live in Cuba. Having access to basic resources helps make life comfortable. One thing about Ziwa is I'm constantly complaining because I feel like we're big enough to support a Home Depot or a Lowe's.
Well, Amazon's selection and service is pretty good here, though. It's not as good as the U.S., but we can buy almost anything we can get in the States. It takes a few extra days and sometimes costs 30% more, but still it's a huge benefit when we can't find something locally.
True. Okay, so what else have we missed? Stability of the government? What's the long-term prognosis of the town you're thinking about moving to? Is it staying the same, or is it growing, dying?
What about the culture? Mexico is pretty go with the flow. But we've been to some places where we stick out like a sore thumb, like the way we dress compared to locals. And a big one for us, how walkable is the town? We walk everywhere.
Yeah, that's important to us. But we have friends here that don't walk anywhere. And some people here have a bicycle that they never use. I think for us, we like being near the water, with the warm weather, near the United States, a medium-sized city, good internet, as mentioned before, safe, clean, inexpensive, friendly people, opportunities to be involved in the community, good food, an ability to make money, able to keep ourselves busy with things like hiking, sports, and an acceptable social life.
But everyone is different, so hopefully we've come up with a few things that maybe people haven't thought about previously. Visiting a city and living in that city is completely different, and in the years since Hong Kong and Nicaragua, we have discovered what we needed in a town where we would live versus a place we'd like to spend a week or two. Did we miss any important factors that should be considered when deciding on where to move?
Definitely, yes.
Let us know what made you choose your foreign destination or what you were looking for in your search. Thanks for watching and take care.